you Irish actors
What?
who can stay up all night knocking back the sauce.
I'm in Kilkenny,
He said, you know, son, he said, we shouldn't be caught doing this. He said, oh, we're finished. We should be out raising hell.
You were ruining your reputation.
Yeah.
Richard Harris, along with most people who do qualify for being a real Hellraiser, managed to combine a certain menace about their personality.
I was told that the world was powerful.
They say that Guinness is an aphrodisiac.
I have not found it to be so, but
I know that.
Happy that...
Well, the only thing that Guinness gets up is your hopes.
It's about time you took that ton of rock off your shoulders. And don't wake me in the morning, I might be dead.
Someone asked me once, what's the difference between you saying Tom Cruise and people like that when Tom Cruise is a major star and you were a major star? I said, there's a great difference. I said, see a photograph, go back on the old days, and you'll see me going to one of my premieres. I had a bottle of vodka in my hand. Tom Cruise got a bottle of Avian water. That's the difference.
Stamina.
Is that it? It's a miracle to me. I mean, if I have 2 jars or cups of Ovaltine, I can't do the show.
There was a time in British cinema when the screen's leading men were as famed for their heroic appetites as for their heroic performances. Richard Burton, Peter O'Toole, Richard Harris, and Oliver Reed were not just actors. They were incendiary talents, combustible presences both on and off the set, whose escapades off-camera often rivaled their performances on it.
Can I have a drink? She should have said, this isn't Lourdes, you know, if you're looking for a cure, go somewhere else. But she recognized me and said, come on in. And I spent, I think, 4 days there. and I don't remember them at all.
If ever there was a Mount Rushmore of cinematic hell-raising, their faces would be carved upon it. They drank with the determination of saints, lived with the abandon of pirates, and acted, on their day, with the brilliance of geniuses. As Peter O'Toole once wryly observed, we were in the business of showing off. Acting was only part of it. Their legend was more than just anecdotal. It was written in whiskey-soaked scripts and bar tabs long enough to circle Soho. Their stories aren't so much whispered in theatrical pubs as hollered joyfully over pints.
The studios indulged his behaviour, but the people closest to him wouldn't. Elizabeth, his first wife and mother of his 3 children, left him. So did his second wife, Anne Turkel.
And in their wake they left not only a string of brilliant performances, but also a blueprint for how not to behave in polite society.
I'm totally guilty. I'm absolutely guilty of everything I'm accused of. I'm guilty of breaking up 2 marriages. I accept that.
Would fathers bear to grunt and sweat under a weary life, but that the dread of something after death?
Dear, Lois comes along here, boxed in. We come up here, boxed in and buggered.
Stand up there in the pulpit and you say, I will teach you infinities.
Richard Burton's voice was once described as a thunderstorm of honey by his contemporary and fellow Welshman Anthony Hopkins. It carried the gravity of kings and the yearning of poets, and on screen he embodied that strange duality of classical majesty and emotional torment.
There is no loyalty except loyalty to the party. There is no love except love of Big Brother. All competing pleasures.
Off-screen, the torment often won. Born into a working-class mining family in Wales, Burton never lost his fierce attachment to his roots. He once said, "I come from the gutter, and don't you forget it, because I won't." That grounding would become central to the mythos, the genius who clawed his way out of coal dust and into Cleopatra's bed, both on-screen and off.
Liz and Dick finally married in 1964, and they then teamed up in the memorable Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf?
His marriages to Elizabeth Taylor became as much a part of his celebrity as his acting. Together they starred in 11 films and tore through hotel rooms and reputations with equal vigor.
One man.
pretty women.
Easy to talk about. All you have to say is Elizabeth Taylor, Richard Burton.
They were an international success, both on and off the screen.
Faces.
Not many.
Mm-hmm. You're not on anymore, are you?
During the filming of The Night of the Iguana in Puerto Vallarta, they drank a bottle of tequila a day between them. One infamous day, Burton downed 21 shots in succession before leaping into the sea to catch a shark.
Do you know what caused you to drink in the first place?
Well, I'm a Welshman. The question of being an alcoholic, I'm not quite sure that I am one, but if I'm not one, I'm very near. I'm right on the edge of being one.
According to a crew member, he emerged 20 minutes later soaked, bleeding and grinning like a schoolboy. During The Spy Who Came In From the Cold, Burton insisted on drinking real whiskey in each take. It took 47 takes. He said the truth demanded it, remembered co-star Claire Bloom, though I suspect the thirst did as well. Burton's relationship with drink was both heritage and habit. His father was an alcoholic who rarely worked and often vanished on benders. It left scars. Doctors once found a crystalline residue around Burton's spine, believed to be the result of decades of alcohol abuse. He died in 1984 at the age of 58. Taylor would later say, "Richard died of many things, but drink killed him."
Nobody quite knows which drink it is that takes him over the edge of being merely a social or hearty, laughing drinker.
I was wondering if tonight maybe you happen to have a story about Richard Harris.
Oh, I'll shuffle through my memories.
He was a gifted actor on many levels, and one of them was instinctive, and he knew instinctively what was required.
Gentlemen, honest men have served us faithfully.
If Burton was the brooding intellectual, Harris was the raucous poet-warrior. He sang, he wrote, he rampaged. Born in Limerick and raised on rugby, Harris carried the stormy soul of Ireland into everything he did. He once said, "Being Irish, I have an abiding sense of tragedy, which sustains me through temporary periods of joy."
His mind's still fantastically alive. You know, it's quite challenging to sit down at 6 o'clock in the morning and have to talk about Beckett and Shakespeare.
He broke through with this sporting life and later became Dumbledore to a new generation.
The magician, he's just the god-like figure here. Full of wisdom, tough, hard, determined.
But his greatest role may have been himself. Half charming rake, half uncontrollable tornado.
And I took my jersey and I put it down over my hand like that. And I put my hand right through the glass. And I took it out and I kept it for the rest of my life. That's how we were treated here in 1954. That would cause me demons. That would cause me anger.
He would routinely begin an evening in London and end up waking in Paris, Rome, or an unfamiliar prison cell.
Threw pebbles up the window, and this woman came and said, "Yeah, what you want?" And I said, "Can I have a drink?" And she should have said, "This isn't Lourdes, you know, if you're looking for a cure, go somewhere else." But she recognized me and said, "Come on in."
Drink? I used to go out for one and wake up in Tangiers, he quipped.
As a teenager, he'd had TB, a brush with death that made him determined to live life to the full. With stardom came the resources to do just that.
Harris maintained flats in London and New York, and frequent hauntings of pubs on both sides of the Atlantic.
I have to go the whole way, or it doesn't work for me. And I suppose that's what, I don't know where I got it, but that's my life. My life has been that.
At Malachi's in Manhattan, the barman would pour 6 double vodkas as soon as Harris walked through the door.
Women adored him, you know, and men wanted to be like him.
His preferred London base was the Savoy, which he famously treated as both home and theatre.
Richard Harris says he was lucky because in the 60s the film studios tolerated his hell-raising.
When warned about his health in the 1980s, he didn't go gently.
And I overpower them to such an extent I exhaust them. I exhaust them at the end. You know, same when I drink.
His body rebelled. He developed high blood sugar levels and was advised to quit drinking.
Instead, he booked a farewell drink, 2 bottles of 1947 Chateau Margaux. At today's prices, that would set you back over £3,000.
Alcohol, much more satisfying and far less dangerous.
But he did moderate it. By the mid-1980s, Harris was limiting himself to 1 pint of Guinness a night.
Harris was very lucky to pull himself back at the last minute and flush a couple of $1,000s worth of cocaine down the toilet and, you know, have a last bottle of Margaux and pull himself back from the brink. And that's a reflection of his intelligence and his strength as a man.
It was either that or the coffin, he told The Times. He lived to 72 and remained fearsome to the end, once reportedly attacking a hotel porter with a rolled-up script for suggesting he had gone quiet.
I was analysing myself that I would consider myself an excessive compulsive, which is that everything I do has to be excessive.
Annie. England is a ship. The king is the captain of the ship.
That's neat. I like that.
A 7-time Academy Award nominee. His films include My Favorite Year, Beckett, and of course, Lawrence of Arabia. Please, folks, welcome one of the all-time great actors, Peter O'Toole.
With 8 Oscar nominations and no wins, Peter O'Toole remains one of the Academy's most infamous bridesmaids. But if awards eluded him, stories clung to him like cologne. O'Toole brought elegance to excess, quoting Yeats over claret and ordering cognac with the solemnity of a bishop administering last rites. He famously said, "I did quite enjoy the days when one went for a drink at one's local in Soho and ended up 4 days later in Cairo with a camel."
No prisoners! No prisoners!
The line between myth and memory blurred easily with O'Toole, perhaps because he had trouble recalling either. Stephen Fry, who acted alongside him in the 1980s, recalled taking O'Toole to see a play. Halfway through, O'Toole leaned in and said, "You'll love this bit. I come on next." He then bolted from his seat and ran backstage. In Dublin, when a pub attempted to close for the night, O'Toole attempted to purchase the establishment on the spot, writing a cheque then and there.
No, says he. You're out. So we bought the bar.
He tore it up the next morning with a hangover and a shrug. His body bore the cost.
The following morning, I woke up and Finchy said, "Do you know what we did last night, mate?" I said, no. He said, "We bought a bar." What?
In 1976, he underwent surgery to remove most of his stomach and all of his pancreas. He required insulin for the rest of his life. "I spent a decade in a bottle and another climbing out," he said in his later years. He lived to 81, long enough to see his hell-raising enshrined in folklore and his performances hailed as peerless.
If it's true, I mean, I'm not going to deny it. And anyone who knows me wouldn't dare vindicate what anything I do.
1, 2, 3. Everything's good. Where's everybody got a you? That's marvellous. Look at this.
We have Oliver Reed that's turned up, very drunk, demanding a drink. He then comes on, and during the course of the interview, alludes to a tattoo on his private part.
There we go, Rog.
That's pretty good, isn't it? Eh?
Well, no, I'm not falling over, Roger. No.
If Burton drank with poetry, Harris with mischief, and O'Toole with grace, Oliver Reed drank like a man trying to destroy the moon.
There was one serious contender for Richard Harris's position as #1 Hellraiser in the acting world. To see who was top dog, the contender challenged Harris to a boxing match at the Albert Hall. The challenger was Oliver Reed.
He was wild in the truest sense, uncontrollable, unpredictable, often unmanageable.
By 1980, Reed was beginning to hone his unique approach to TV appearances.
Reed made his name in Hammer horror films, then cemented it with Women in Love and Oliver. But off-camera, his legend spiraled into parody. He was known for drinking 100 pints in a 24-hour period, flashing his tattooed genitals in public. He nicknamed his member the Mighty Mallet, and instigating spontaneous drinking contests with anyone foolish enough to accept.
Expecting to show me a fucking anchor or something on his arm. I go, sure. he gets his dick out and he's got a, I can't remember what it was, I didn't really take that much of a look, but he had a tattoo on the end of his dick and he gets it out in the...
You meet a better class of person in pubs, Reed once claimed, though many publicans might beg to differ. His reputation for brawling and flashing led some producers to refuse to insure him.
In 1991, Reed appeared on Channel 4's open-ended intellectual forum to give his perspective on male violence. He was drinking from the outset.
On the set of Gladiator, director Ridley Scott pleaded with him to stay sober. Reed agreed, for a while. Then, during a break in Malta, he drank with a group of Royal Navy sailors. Witnesses say he downed 8 pints of lager, a dozen shots of rum and whiskey, and several glasses of cognac. Then he collapsed. He died en route to hospital, aged 61. His scenes in Gladiator were completed with CGI. He went out in the only way he knew how, said Scott later, pint in hand, surrounded by strangers becoming friends.
Piss off, out of here. Bloody joke. Go on, piss off. Bloody think you were hard, man. Go on, piss off out of it.
The world they inhabited has long since passed. Health and safety, insurance premiums, and social media have replaced studio indulgence and blackout nights. Today, actors are more likely to boast about their Peloton stats than their liver function. There is undoubtedly a relief in that, but also perhaps a twinge of regret. These men were cautionary tales, but they were also cautionary tales lit with a kind of brilliance that is hard to ignore. Their performances were fueled not just by talent, but by an intensity of living that few could match. Were they selfish? Often. Were they dangerous? Sometimes. But they were never dull. Actors today, O'Toole once lamented, are so well behaved you could take them home to meet your vicar. In the end, perhaps it's best to view them not as role models, but as roaring, ribald warnings from another era. They remind us that art, like life, sometimes comes wrapped in chaos, and if you can't separate the two, you'd better be prepared to burn brightly, and briefly. As Harris once said, being an actor is a license to be outrageous. I just made sure I used mine. And outrageous they were, each one, magnificent, tragic, and unforgettable.